Hey, it's Paul Omahony here, and today I'm going to be teaching you about the topic of debt. Everybody's favorite subject, right? Well, absolutely not. And you might even think, oh God, I don't need to hear about this. I'm up to my eyeballs in debt already. I don't need to be looking at something else talking about debt. But please stick with this. You're going to really have a different perspective at the end of this video. It's only going to be a few minutes, and it could be the first step to you making massive strides towards eliminating debt, or at least bad debt, from your life. Okay, before we get started, if you're finding this topic of interest and you'd like to get more training on this, feel free at any point to go to rethinkmoney.com, where I share with you completely for free how you can get into this topic in more detail and learn specific strategies as to how to work your way out of debt as a whole. Now, let's talk about this. One of the things I always like to do is to give people some perspective about a topic before we get into the detail. There are 5 different levels of wealth that we can measure people by. Now, not so much what the people are like, but just what category they fit into from an economical situation, from a financial perspective. So if we look at these, the very, very bottom of the 5 steps is debt. Okay, debt. This is where you owe more to people than you currently have. Now, the vast majority of society are in debt. In fact, there are some staggering figures out there where the World Bank released that over 3.4 billion people on the planet are earning less than $5.50 per day. Right? These numbers are just phenomenal when you think about it. And so the vast majority of the planet are in this situation where they basically owe more than they have. Now, the next level above that is scarcity. And this is where you're working your way out of debt. Debt is definitely still predominant in your life, but money is definitely scarce. Each decision that you make on a day-to-day basis is determined ultimately by money. Where you eat, what you wear, what school your children go to, what type of holiday you go on, how long you go on your holiday for, what kind of car you drive, where you work, etc., etc. Where money is very much the key factor around that. So that's just above debt. That's debt and scarcity. The next level above that is health, okay? And that level is not so much where you're at a point where, okay, you're financially healthy. Not exactly, but it's just as you lead into that. Let's actually compare it to if it was from a fitness perspective, okay? And you've just gone to see your personal trainer. They've taken your measurements, right? They've checked your weight, they've checked your body fat, they've checked your resting heart rate, and they've looked at your diet. And now they've put a clear plan in place for you in terms of your diet and your exercise as to what you need to do to get exactly to that point in X amount of time. That's where health is from a financial perspective. You know exactly where your money is. You know exactly what interest you're getting. You know exactly what interest rate you're paying on the loans that you have right now. You know what your mortgage is. You know exactly how many months are left on it. And you have a clear savings and investing plan that's going to take you to a clear target of what you need in order to live financially free for the rest of your life from a certain specific date in the future. Now, for most people, that's not a reality, okay? They just say, I'm broke, I just don't have enough money. They're thinking shorter term. So health, from a financial perspective, is when you are clear on that. You know where the money is, you know exactly how much you need to make, you know and then you have a plan on exactly how much you need to have saved at what percentage rate moving forward. The next level above that is where you get to a point of ultimately, just above health, I would say, is where you're getting to prosperity, where you've got ample money available to you, where money definitely doesn't define what you do on a day-to-day basis, or lack of, should I say. So you're quite prosperous. You could even call this kind of the millionaire type status. Now, how many of these are there on the planet? Depending on where you get your statistics, anywhere between 20 and 40 million people have about $1 million US dollars of net worth, excluding their primary home. So that's the point where, and that's roughly by the way 0.216% of the planet, right? So 99.8% of people on the planet are not millionaires. Now, if you're in debt and you're up to your eyeballs in debt, and you're taking advice from people within that 99.8%, that's not going to help, right? You can probably guess that. But we'll come back to that in a moment. And then the very top of the 5 steps, so from debt, scarcity, health, and prosperity, is wealth and impact, where you're talking about a level of wealth that you truly can make an impact on the planet. Unfortunately, in today's world, we're growing up in an environment where some of the wealthiest people on the planet are using that money to give back to advancing the biggest human wants and causes and needs that are out there right now, where people are donating vast chunks of their wealth to help advance society as a whole. Which is great, because when I was brought up, there were never these real role models from a financial perspective and wealth that you'd look up to, because I always thought, rich people are mean and you don't get to the top of the ladder without trampling on people to get there. But nowadays, when you look at the kind of examples that we have, they truly can be inspiring to our own children, grandchildren, nephews and nieces to show that, true impact can be made on this planet by building major wealth. So here's the thing. Because we're surrounded by debt so much, right, we just find that this is the norm. Right? In fact, we don't even consider ourselves in debt many times. We don't consider our mortgage, for example. A lot of people don't even consider their mortgage debt. They don't count that when they're working out where they are financially. And usually the comment is, well, everybody has one of those. Everybody has a mortgage. And we kind of end up justifying our financial situation based on those that are closest to us and around us. And that's a big problem when it comes to debt, because we get, like a mortgage, for example. A mortgage comes from the word mortir, meaning death. That's what mortgage means, debt until death. Now, obviously, mortgage sounds better when you're selling them, but think about that. That's what we're setting our children up to do. Is we want them in their 20s to get themselves a mortgage. What does that mean? Get them debt until death. Right? Or before that, we put them through college, and we want them to graduate, and we want to be proud of them. And the average student in the US graduates with approximately $38,000 of debt. The average citizen in the US spends $600,000 in a lifetime on interest on debt. Debt matters. Debt is what keeps the world rolling. It's how people stay in jobs. It's how banks continue to make their money. But the key distinction in debt is this. There are 2 types of debt. There's good debt and there's bad debt. Now, I wasn't aware of this, until I started studying the topic of money. I just didn't like being in debt. But everybody I knew was in debt, so then you think, okay, well, it's normal. But here's the thing. There's good debt and bad debt. And there's also assets and liabilities. Now, the simple way to think about this is an asset is anything that puts money in your pocket, while a liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. So a good debt is something that allows you to purchase assets, while bad debt is anything that allows you to purchase liabilities. So good debt is anything that puts money into your pocket. Bad debt is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Now, here is the crazy thing, right? Most people don't think of debt in different ways. If you want to get out of bad debt, you need to, in many cases, get into good debt. You need to get into debt that allows you to make more money. Right? So there's a very clear distinction. Now, you might ask, well, how do I know what's good debt, what's bad debt? Simply put, if you go into a bank and you ask for a loan and they say no, it's probably for good debt. If they say yes, it's probably for bad debt. Let me give you an example. If you go into a bank and you ask for a loan for a new online business, they'll probably say no to you. If you ask them for the exact same amount of money for a brand new car, they'll say yes, right? Even though it depreciates by 25% the minute you turn the key in the ignition, they'll happily say yes, because they know that you're going to have to pay them back monthly. They're interested because you're paying interest. Right? That car is not going to make you money unless you buy it as an asset and you're going to use it for a taxi or an Uber or Lyft. That's completely different, but most people aren't buying it as an asset, they're buying it as a liability. Likewise, if you're going to college and you want to get a loan from the bank to go to college, they'll say yes. Why? Because they know that you're getting a degree, so you're going to get a permanent job so that you can pay that back year on year on year. That's why they're interested, because again, you're going to be paying interest. However, if you're looking to get a loan to build an asset, that means you don't need their money anymore. They're not going to be interested, because you don't need to pay any interest on their loans, because you're going to be getting yourself out of bad debt. So what you want to start thinking of, to begin with at least, is look at on a daily basis what you're spending your money on. How many of them are liabilities? In other words, I need to spend money on this again. and how many of them are assets. In other words, this is going to put more money in my pocket by putting money into this. That's a great exercise for you to start reallocating what you spend on a daily basis from liabilities into assets. And once you start to do that on a more regular basis, you can then start to think about using debt in the same way, using other people's money in the same way. Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Dad, Poor Dad famously talks about this when he says, I live tax-free. He said, I've got $600 million of debt, but I live tax-free because you don't get taxed on debt. So basically, he is using other people's money, right? Other people's money as in investors and banks' money to buy property that he creates positive cash flow from. He's purchasing them on assets. He understands the difference between good debt and bad debt, where he can live tax-free. Now, that's something to aspire to ultimately down the road when you understand money an awful lot better. But as Tony Robbins says, success leaves clues. If you want to see how you can get out of debt and follow and track your progress, exactly what to do step by step, please make sure you go to rethinkmoney.com, and I have some free training for you in there. If there's somebody in your life that could benefit from just watching this simple video today, please feel free to share this with them, tag them in, or like and comment on your own situation below. I know money is an emotional topic. I know debt is an emotional topic, but it starts with awareness. It starts with just looking around you. Look at what your habits and behaviors are showing. Look about what your habits and behaviors of your friends are doing. And ask yourself this: would you take advice about losing weight from your most overweight friend? Right? Definitely not. So why do you take advice around money from people around you that don't have the amount of money that you want? Think about that. We need to move to a completely different place if we want to get out of that bad debt.